Jay here, Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm in the studio. We are live with all the latest Manchester United news. Apologies, we're a little bit late. We're going to be talking about the transfer window. It's done. It is done. We know what moves Manchester United have made. We know what incomes we've got. We know what outgoings we've got as well. Yes, there might be one or two players that could go to Saudi, for example. There's a couple of windows still open. But by and large, we are done. Our business this summer is completed. So we're going to be talking about that. We're also going to be talking about an article by Laurie Whitwell, who's gone behind the scenes, as always, into some of the moves Manchester United made and the decisions behind them. So we're getting into all that. So before we do, make sure you are hitting like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Great to see so many people there. People asking about whether I was in my kitchen, Miss Man United. Give everyone the update there, though, that we were not. We're in the studio. Santa Nocci's there. Akash K's there. Sea Fence, Danny Sabbath. Maurice Marshall, BMW Racing 1974. Good to see all the usual suspects and some new ones as well. Welcome to you all. Right. Here's the ins and outs of Manchester United. We've got a little graphic here we can show you. So if you scroll up there, you can see we're going to go through them all in a minute, but quite a busy window there when you look at it like that. Manchester United obviously bringing in some big names, spending quite a lot of money, and moving on quite a lot of names as well. The so-called bomb squad, other than Tyrone Malacia, who I think is still being treated unfairly as part of that bomb squad, all moving on. I think it was Alejandro Garnacho on a permanent, the rest on a loan move. Oh, sorry, Alejandro Garnacho and Anthony on a permanent and the rest on loan moves. We'll get into that in a minute. Let's talk about the incomings then. We'll talk through them all, and I want you to get involved in the chat and the comments and let us know what you think. The first one, which was done pretty much the first day of the window, was Mattheus Cunha. Done deal, came in from Wolves. I think everyone was pretty happy about that. We all knew that was going to happen. We expected it. We all knew what he'd done against United. We all knew what he'd done last couple of seasons. Very productive on the goals and assist front. Has a bit of an edge to him. Very skillful. A player that every United fan I've spoken to was excited to see. I didn't speak to anyone who was like, why are we getting Mattheus Cunha? He's rubbish. Especially when you look at how much we'd struggled last season to break teams down, to create chances. He's a player that does both of those things. Get him in. Love it. Absolutely love it. And I love what I've seen so far as well from him. I know it's only a small sample size, but so far I think Mattheus Cunha, despite not scoring, has been very good in a Manchester United shirt, and I'm looking to seeing more of him. We also, as well, let's not forget, had already done a deal for Diego Leon. So we had him done, I think that was done in January, came over from Paraguay. There was some questions about whether he was going to come in and go back out on loan or whether we're going to use him, how he'd get on. He got some minutes in pre-season. He's looked relatively useful, so that's another one as well. Then another big signing, Bryan Mbeumo. This one dragged on a little bit, didn't it? I think it was about 4 weeks where we're going back and forth with Brentford. There was talk that maybe Spurs could hijack the move. He made his feelings clear. He wanted to come to Manchester United. And this was a big indication. This was a big indication of what Ineos were about here with Bryan Mbeumo, because what happened was with Mbeumo, the club went to Bryan Mbeumo first, found out through him or his agent that he was definitely up for coming to Manchester United, and then went to the club, Brentford, and made an offer. And that felt like how Manchester United were moving now, making sure we had players that wanted to come to Manchester United and then making the offer. Went back and forth. At first, I think there was 2 bids rejected, maybe. I think United tried to sort of get him for 40-odd million. That wasn't happening. 50-odd million wasn't happening. In the end, it was, 65 plus 5 million add-on, something like that. Everyone's happy. Brentford have got a decent chunk for him. Manchester United have got their man for something that's not extortionate. I know it's a lot of money, but it's not extortionate. Felt pretty appropriate. Bryan Mbeumo is another player as well who, despite only playing a few games, looks the part. Isn't phased at being at Manchester United. And that's one big advantage as well when you buy Premier League players. You don't have to have as much of a settling-in period. I know it's always a bit of a settling-in period at Manchester United because no disrespect to the likes of Brentford and Wolves, but you are making a huge step up going from those clubs to Manchester United, despite the fact our league position is actually worse than Brentford's anyway. But in terms of the size of the club and the stature of the club, it is obviously a big step up. But both players just came in with that bit of a swagger, completely unfazed, not bothered, wanted to be here, destined to be here almost, and just got on with it. And I've been very impressed so far with what I've seen. And those signings made sense. They did. I know some people might look at it and go, you could have had Ahmad in the 10, you could have had Bruno there. Do we really need 2 number 10s? Let's not forget as well, Bryan Mbeumo can lead the line if he needs to. Both score goals, create goals, and are dangerous as well. And we needed to have a massive overhaul of our attack because 44 Premier League goals last season was just a disgrace. There's no sugarcoating it. And you've brought in 2 players who, between them, average about a goal every other game. So if you want to try and moneyball it, you could argue it's a goal a game from him. I know it isn't, but you get my point. So yeah, good signings. Happy with those. David says, Jay, do you think it would have been better to get a new midfielder over a striker? I'm gonna be getting. That's not the right way to say it. I'm gonna get into that in a minute because there's a Laurie article that touches on that. Just what. We'll talk through these signings, get involved in the chat and let us know what you think. Wes Hayes has spoken about Welbeck. We'll get into that. Welbeck, he says, we'll get into that as well because that's in this Laurie article. But I'll just whiz through the rest of the signings. The big surprise one for me was Sesko. Because at one point it looked like he was going to go to Arsenal. Then he looked like Newcastle were in for him. Then United were in for him. And almost it was like United were in for him and 4 days later he was a United player. There was very little back and forth between United and Leipzig. It was just like, we want him, we've got him. And we felt like we kind of hijacked Newcastle's deal at one point. So, yeah, that was one that sort of caught a few of us by surprise. I think we were on tour when that got announced. Great signing in terms of the stature of him, the reputation he's got, how effective he can be. I think we're all sort of looking at him and going, OK, this is a good signing, this makes sense, but we're waiting to see what he can do in a United shirt. I think we've seen it already with Mbeumo and Cunha because they've had more opportunities. Sesko, he's still finding his feet, but very exciting player, and you can understand why Manchester United wanted him, and it's good to see we got him. So your whole front three has been revamped. Like you've brought in 3 new attackers who should be able to play in those 2 number 10s and number 9 role. That's your attack sorted. The other issue we had was goalkeeper. Well, 2 other issues was midfield and goalkeeper. At one point, it looked like we were going to get Carlos Baleba. That didn't happen. But a goalkeeper became a bigger priority once the season started. I think there was still some question marks over whether United desperately needed a new goalkeeper going into the season. There was a few arguments to be made that, you know what, maybe United could get away with Andre Onana for another season, or maybe Ali Bayandé could step up. However, the first few games of the season have just highlighted that neither of those two, unfortunately, look like they're up to the job. Against Arsenal, Bayandé made one big mistake, but it was a costly mistake. It was the goal, the only goal of the game. Then you have the Fulham game where he just looks all over the gaff on corners. And listen, I know I say it all the time, but I like Bayandé. Met him, seems like a good guy. But as a United goalkeeper, there's big question marks there, and especially on corners and crosses. So you think, okay, let's bring back Onana for the Grimsby game. Jesus wept. I mean, it couldn't have gone any worse, to be honest with you. Just at fault for both the Grimsby goals in normal time. Just one at the near post, just shocking, and then flapping it across and just gifts them a goal. And then the penalties. Listen, I don't blame goalkeepers for not saving penalties. I think he saved one, but it just wasn't a good afternoon for him. And we go out to League Two opposition, and he's a big reason we did. So that raises even more questions. Then you get to the Burnley game, which, to be fair, we won. But it felt at times like we won it in spite of Ali Bandé rather than because of him. I mean, again, not looking great on crosses. One point he looks a bit shaky when he comes out of he sort of slides out of his area. And it just reiterates the idea that Manchester United needed a goalkeeper. Well, thankfully, Senne Lammens comes in. Is he going to be the answer to all our problems? Let's be honest, I've no idea. I've seen clips of him. He looks very useful. I've seen the scouting reports. You can understand why Manchester United got him. But we won't know until he's in a United shirt whether he's up to the job. And it may take him a season to settle, or maybe even 2. David De Gea took about 18 months to really sort of settle. Thankfully, in that second season, he won a title, but he was with a team and behind a defence that was a lot more solid than what we've got now, even though I do rate our defenders. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with Senne Lammens. But we definitely needed a new goalkeeper, and we got him. I'll get to the outgoings in a minute. Let me know what you think about the signings. Get involved. Akash K says, Jay, maybe I'm delusional. I thought Alti could improve. Thank you, producer Ben. Just give me a brew. What a legend. Listen, there's nothing delusional about it. Goalkeepers, I know he's in his little, sort of, what is he, 27 or whatever. Goalkeepers can improve when you give them more games. And he didn't have a good run of games for United. So you thought, okay, maybe if you give him a run, he'll get a bit of composure. He'll get used to playing for Manchester United. We'll see something from him. However, the more he plays, the more questions are raised. And it's not a good position to be in when he's costing you points and making his defenders look nervous and making the crowd nervous as well. So I don't think that's deluded. I think it's a fair comment. I just don't think we've seen anything so far this season to make me think he can be the answer. Beyond Fitness says, just tuned in. Thanks for all your work over the transfer window and keeping us up to date. 7 out of 10 window for me. What's your opinion on Erik ten Hag being sacked already? I feel sorry for Erik ten Hag. I think Leverkusen have thrown him under the bus a little bit there. They've lost, 7 of their first 11? some big names. Wirtz, Frimpong, I think, is it Jonathan Tah as well? Did he leave? Am I getting that completely wrong? Who else is there? The names escape me. Granit Xhaka as well. They've lost some big names who did a massive job for them, especially when they had that season under Xabi Alonso. So I do feel a little bit sorry for Erik ten Hag when he's been sacked after, 3 games? 1 in the cup that he won and 2 in the league, one of which he drew. I know they were, was it 2-0 up, whatever, against Werder Bremen, and they were down 10 men or whatever it was. But yeah, it does feel a little bit like he's been scapegoated for what has been a poor window from Leverkusen. And I just hope his reputation recovers, because regardless of what you thought of him at Manchester United, I know some people don't like him because the signings we made and they think he's responsible for ruining more than just one season. But I'd like to see him find a club and get some success again. Let's talk about outgoings. So there's the outs. Alejandro Garnacho there at the top of the list. You can see 40 million plus 10%, is it, of sell-on. You've got Rasmus Højlund. You've got on a loan with a £38 million option. There was some confusion as to how that works, because I think Napoli on their website said it was an obligation. Other reports were it was an option. It becomes an obligation, I think, if Napoli get Champions League football. I think that's the deal. If Napoli get Champions League football, then they are obligated to buy Rasmus Højlund, because that makes sense for them. If he's played a part in getting them Champions League football, then the revenue they'll create will be a lot more than 38 million, so that'll cover his transfer fee. Marcus Rashford, loan to Barcelona. I mean, one of the best moves you can get, got to Barcelona, with an option to buy. He's not hit the ground running, I think it's safe to say, but he has got himself back in the England squad, so we'll see what happens on that front. Antony, this was the one that was just a bit weird. So, like, everyone knew Betis wanted him. He did really well on loan there. Scored loads of goals, got player of the match, he's got a load of assists, didn't turn up in the Europa Conference final, but despite that, did very well. The fans loved him. He seemed to love the club there. He was a much better player for Real Betis than he's been in a United shirt. However, they just couldn't get a deal done for ages. And then it was announced that we had done a deal. Then Real Betis said, no, they haven't. They sort of pushed back on that. Anyway, we got the deal done. And it's not a bad deal from Manchester United's point of view. I know people will say, Jay, we spent 80 million quid on him or whatever it is. How can it be a good deal? We were always going to take a huge loss on Antony. And that is our own fault for massively overpaying for him. So 90 million plus 2.6 million. And this is the sort of the sweetener. 50% sell on. So whatever Real Betis get for him, because they are a selling club, let's not forget. There's a good chance they sell him in a couple of years. We'll get 50%. There was some discrepancies as to whether that's the profit or the actual sale. Right now, I don't care. Don't care. We've moved him on. We've got some money. Happy days. Jadon Sancho, loan to Villa, good riddance. And Toby Collier out at the bottom. Listen, I was saying earlier on in the window that if Toby Collier doesn't move, I could see him actually getting some minutes. He's got a bit of legs that we could probably use in midfield. However, Ruben Amorim obviously feels different and has moved him on. Out of all them, I think you can, other than maybe Jadon Sancho, who I think no one really likes. Out of all them, you'd wish him well, except Garnacho. Garnacho's so weird because I don't think he needed to act the way he acted when he left. There's a sort of school of thought that you could look at and go, okay, Garnacho, we got him from Atletico, he came through the academy, he helped us win us the FA Youth Cup, he helped us win us the FA Cup, he won a Puskas Award, he played over 130 times for Manchester United, and then he moves on for 40 million quid plus 10% of the sell-on. It's not that deep. Okay, that's fine. We can wish him well, but we don't because of his actions. He's just basically spat his dummy out and just been really weird. No acknowledgement of Manchester United, and I'm not 14 years old. It's not like I'm crying because a player doesn't do a social media post about Manchester United. But it's just proper stupid. It doesn't make any sense to me. Me and Joe were talking about this last night. You could have done a nice post where you've done like, picture of you winning the FA Youth Cup, picture of you winning the FA Cup, picture of you scoring that Puskas Award winner, and just said, look, thanks to Manchester United, had some great years there, learnt my footballing trade there, love the fans, hope you all, wish you all well, time for the next chapter. Yes, lots of United fans would have probably told him to sod off. But there'd have been some that, okay, it didn't work out. Probably could have acted a little bit better than he did. But we got some money for him. He got some decent games out of him, some big goals. We move on. But he's just acting like a right muppet. And I think he'll regret it. One day he'll look back and think, I didn't need to do all that. Miss Man United said, I hope Bryan Mbeumo would come good, but excited to see Lammens. Just hope there's not too much pressure on him. Good point. There's going to be a lot of pressure on him, especially if he plays in that Manchester derby, which is the first game after the international break. Let's talk about Laurie Whitwell's article here, because he's done one of his Inside United transfer window pieces that we all love. There's some talking points there. The debate over number 6 and number 9. There was a debate at Manchester United over whether we should go for a number 6 or number 9. It seems Jason Wilcox was keener on a number 9. He's the one that sort of got the most clout when it comes to transfers. I think there is a discussion, obviously, with the manager, because the manager's got to want the transfer, otherwise it's pointless signing players he ain't going to play. But I do think that, I don't know what's going on here. It's just a producer having one. So, yeah, I think that Jason Wilcox was like, look, we need a 9 more than number 6. This is what Laurie's article says. It's behind the play wall, so I can't really go into it all, but you can see the sort of the headlines there. Also, there was a talk about the injury to Onana affecting the goalkeeping thought. I think there was something about as well about Onana with some sort of contract dispute sort of thing going on as well. I'll get into that in a minute. But first of all, just on the 6 and 9 point, it says here, United weighed up moving for a striker or midfielder with discussions to ascertain the potential price of a Carlos Baleba deal underway. The choice at that stage was to go for a number 6 or a number 9. Some at the club believe a midfielder should have been the priority, but Wilcox advocated to sign a scorer after United's record of 44 Premier League goals last campaign, and Ratcliffe backed that call. It certainly feels as though Jason Wilcox has got Jim Ratcliffe's ear. It does seem like he listens to him. And then it talks about how United began the summer hoping to sign Liam Delap in the number 9. But Delap chose Chelsea. And then there's a little bit here as well, if I can just find it, where it says it's around this time that United seriously considered or seriously looked at signing a secondary striker at the other end of the spectrum. It can be disclosed that United explores conditions for signing or for bringing Danny Welbeck back. See it here? Heartbreaking. What a ludicrous decision. Sir Jim Ratcliffe has got a lot to answer for there. You know what? He couldn't sanction a 2-year deal for a player turning 35. Bro, you would have paid his wages in shirt sales. Yeah. Millions of United fans would have gone out and bought a Danny Welbeck shirt. Idiotic decision. Honestly, the owners at this club, they'll never learn. I don't think it's ever going to happen, is it? Welbeck. It's just not. Such a shame. Don't worry, Danny. We'll always have the Bernabeu. And no, I don't want to hear about the Manuel Neuer chip. Just shut up. Grimsby fined. What's this little story here? We'll get into some comments in a minute, but I've just seen some pop up on my list. Nathan Salt. Hang on a minute. Wait a goddamn minute. This is breaking news, and this is massive. Grimsby Town fielded an illegible player against Man United in the Carabao Cup. Statement from the EFL below. Well, I'm not going to read all that. I can't even read it. So that was a great move there, wasn't it? You're on form today, kid. Hey. It says here that the breach relates to the club fielding an illegible player against Manchester United in round 2 tie on 27th of August. Grimsby Town progressed to round 3 following a 12. Yeah, we know about all that. The club self-reported the breach upon discovery the day after the fixture had been completed. Following a comprehensive review of all the evidence and considering prior decisions taken in respect of offences in the League Cup, the board determined that the issuing of fine followed precedent. No, absolutely not. Right? The only fair thing to do is to chuck Grimsby out of the Carabao Cup and put Manchester United back in. That would be absolutely hilarious if that happened, wouldn't it? Imagine the meltdown if Manchester United were put back into the League Cup because Grimsby fielded an eligible player. Look, I don't even know who the eligible player is, but it's not like they fielded Lionel Messi. Like, it doesn't really matter. United should have beat Grimsby Town. If this was like United played Liverpool in the FA Cup final and Liverpool fielded a player that was ineligible, then yeah, I'd be kicking off and going berserk. But I'm not going to lose my mind. It's just, it adds to the whole comedy of that entire episode, doesn't it? And there's no excuses. United should have beat Grimsby Town. And there's a lot to answer there. Joshua Bowater says, Grimsby fined rather than being thrown out of the competition for fielding an eligible player versus United in the Cup. We demand a replay. Yeah, I think the only fair thing to do would be to dock City points from the 2012 season. I think that's the fair response. Ant L says, Sancho becomes a villain, hilariously apt. Oh, it's Clark Adair. It was the player. There we go. Ronnie made that joke, didn't he, about him being stinky or whatever? Or him, well, I can't remember what it was. Or if he has a sniff a goal, that was it. Well, he's the one that apparently was ineligible. So, Glenn F says, got to get a rematch. I don't want a rematch. I don't. There's only one thing worse than losing to Grimsby Town, and that's losing to Grimsby Town twice. And knowing United, that's what will happen. We'll have a rematch and lose again. So, forget it. We're out of the Carabao Cup. Just move on. Ivan Pradhan says, in football, problems will always come up. Signs of good management is that it identifies, isolates and solves those problems, which is what has happened so far, even though not all has been solved. Seafence says, why does the level of the opposition matter? It's about competition integrity. All right, I understand that. It's a fair point. You know what? You could argue, look, if them's the rules, them's the rules. But I think a fine. It is what it is. John Bolt says a fine will hurt them at their level. Yeah, fine. Nice. I just want to move on from the Grimsby game, man. Honestly, it's so depressing. We need to move on. We're going to be back later on today. We have got Carl Anker in the studio. We're going to be chatting to him about all sorts of stuff. Loads of tactics, no doubt. And he'll probably have his tactics board out. So make sure if you're not doing, you are hitting like, share and subscribe. We're also got loads of other content. We're going to be in from Stephen Howson as well. So yeah, make sure you check out that. I've been Motty. This has been The Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.